Hello, I'm Essay, your AI essayist. Please note that all content, audio and video in this presentation are AI generated. As AI can sometimes produce inaccuracies, I encourage you to verify any factual information presented. With that in mind, let's begin.
In the intellectual history of computation, certain documents possess the weight of foundational scripture, the contents articulating a future that their own era could scarcely comprehend. Charles Babbage's 1837 manuscript on the mathematical powers of the calculating engine stands as such a text, a work of breathtaking conceptual audacity, penned in the midst of the Industrial Revolution, a period defined by the mechanization of physical labor. Babbage's paper outlined the mechanization of thought itself. It documents a profound intellectual leap from his earlier plans for the difference engine, a sophisticated yet single-purpose calculating device, to the analytical engine, a machine whose design principles presaged the universal programmable computer. By a full century, this essay will explore the 1837 manuscript as a singular event in the history of science, examining the intellectual soil from which it grew, detailing the revolutionary architecture it described, and tracing its long, often subterranean, journey to becoming the foundational blueprint for the digital age. The document is more than a technical specification. It is a treatise on the nature of symbolic manipulation and a testament to a mind that saw the gears and levers of his time as instruments for embodying pure logic. The genesis of the analytical engine lies in the unique intellectual pressures of early 19th century Britain. The era was beset by a peculiar crisis of information born of its own success, the expansion of global trade, celestial navigation, and the burgeoning field of engineering demanded vast and meticulously accurate mathematical tables. Logarithmic, trigonometric, and astronomical charts were the essential software of the empire, yet they were calculated by hand, a process riddled with human fallibility. The French mathematician Gaspard de Prony had previously organized a massive computational project using a division of labor inspired by Adam Smith, a logarithmic factory where teams of human computers performed simple, repetitive arithmetic. Babbage, deeply troubled by the errors he found in existing tables, saw in de Prony's system a process ripe for mechanization. His initial answer was the difference engine, a brilliant mechanical calculator designed to tabulate polynomial functions, using the method of finite differences. While a marvel of precision engineering, the difference engine was ultimately a special-purpose tool, its operational sequence fixed within its very structure. The true imaginative breakthrough, formalized in an 1837 manuscript, was catalyzed by an entirely different technology, the Jacquard loom. Joseph Marie Jacquard's invention used a sequence of punched cards to control the weaving of complex patterns in textiles. Babbage perceived that this system for controlling a machine's physical operations could be generalized to control its logical operations. The punched card offered a way to feed a machine an arbitrary sequence of instructions, liberating its function from its physical form. This fusion of the need for error-free calculation with the Jacquard mechanism for programmable control predated the intellectual crucible from which the analytical engine was forged. The 1837 manuscript details an architecture of startling modernity, a machine whose logical organization is profoundly familiar to any student of computer science today. Babbage described a machine composed of distinct, interacting sections, a modularity that represented a fundamental departure from all previous calculating devices. The centerpiece was the mill, the engine's arithmetic and logic unit, where all calculations, such as addition, subtraction, multiplication and division, were to be performed. This was the computational heart of the machine, a complex assembly of gears and columns that executed the operations. Data and intermediate results were held in the store, a separate section that functioned as the machine's memory. The store was designed to hold 1,000 numbers, each of 50 decimal digits, a vast repository of information for its time. The genius of this separation is difficult to overstate. In the difference engine, calculation and storage were inextricably linked. In the analytical engine, the mill could fetch any number from any location in the store, operate upon it, and return the result to any other location. This separation of processing from memory is the foundational principle of all subsequent computer architectures. The true mathematical powers of the title, however, resided in the engine's control mechanism. Babbage envisioned two sets of Jacquard cards. Variable cards would specify the memory addresses of the data, the specific columns in the store from which the mill should retrieve its operands. Operation cards would dictate the mathematical function the mill was to perform. By feeding the engine any of these two card types, a user could specify a complex sequence of calculations, an algorithm executed automatically and flawlessly. This was the birth of software. The engine's power, however, went even further, embodying a capability that elevates it from a mere automated calculator to a genuine computing device. Babbage described a mechanism for conditional branching. The machine could test a number for a certain property, for example whether it was positive or negative, and based on the result, it could advance or reverse the chain of instruction cards, thereby executing a different set of operations. This is the mechanical equivalent of the modern if-then statement, the elemental building block of all algorithmic control flow. He also incorporated the ability to create loops, allowing the engine to repeat a series of instructions a specified number of times. With these features, the analytical engine was equipped to carry out any definable finite computation, making it Turing-complete in principle, long before Alan Turing had even been born. The immediate reception of Babbage's vision was a mixture of limited admiration and widespread incomprehension. To most of his contemporaries, the analytical engine was a fantastical dream, its mechanical complexity appearing insurmountable and its conceptual purpose obscure. The British government, having already invested a small fortune in the unfinished difference engine, ultimately withdrew its support, viewing the new project as an even greater folly. In this climate of skepticism, the full articulation of the engine's potential fell to another remarkable intellect, Ada Lovelace. Having studied Babbage's work and attended his lectures, she undertook the translation of a paper on the analytical engine by the Italian engineer Luigi Menabrea. Lovelace appended her own extensive set of notes to this translation, a commentary that proved to be more insightful and influential than the original text. It was in these notes that the first computer program was published, an algorithm for calculating the Bernoulli numbers. More profoundly, Lovelace grasped the philosophical implications of Babbage's invention in a way that perhaps even he had yet to fully articulate. She saw that the engine's power lay in its ability to manipulate abstract symbols, moving beyond the realm of pure mathematics. She famously wrote that the engine might compose elaborate and scientific pieces of music of any degree of complexity or extent. She understood that the machine operated on symbols according to rules, and that if the fundamental relations of other domains could be expressed in a symbolic form, the engine could process them. Lovelace, therefore, acted as the essential intellectual amplifier and interpreter of the 1837 manuscript, articulating its destiny as a general-purpose symbolic processor. The legacy of on the mathematical powers of the calculating engine followed a curious trajectory, one of prolonged hibernation followed by a powerful resurrection. For nearly a century, Babbage's work remained a historical curiosity, a chapter in the history of failed inventions. The technological path to the electronic computer was largely one of independent reinvention, driven by the new possibilities of electromechanical relays and vacuum tubes. Pioneers of the 1930s and 1940s, such as Konrad Zuse in Germany and Howard Aiken in the United States, developed machines based on similar architectural principles. Aiken's Harvard Mark I, for instance, embodied a comparable separation of data and instruction, albeit using paper tape instead of cards. When Babbage's writings were rediscovered and studied in the context of these emerging electronic computers, the shock of recognition was immense. Researchers realized that the logical structure they were building with relays and wires had been fully conceived by Babbage in the language of fears and levers. The Babbage-Lovelace concepts of a separated store and mill, of data and operation inputs, and of conditional branching were recognized as the direct ancestors of the von Neumann architecture that would come to dominate modern computing. His son, Henry Babbage, had made valiant efforts to construct a portion of the mill, a demonstration piece that proved the soundness of the underlying mechanics, but it took the electronic age to provide a viable medium for the grandness of the original vision. Babbage had designed the software and the architecture for the digital age. History simply needed time to invent the appropriate hardware. In conclusion, Charles Babbage's 1837 manuscript is far more than a technical proposal. It is a foundational document of our modern world. It marks the precise moment when the concept of computation was severed from the specifics of arithmetic and recast as a general theory of symbolic process control. Babbage's genius was his ability to see beyond the cogs and wheels of his physical design to the abstract logical architecture they embodied, an architecture of such power and generality that it remains at the core of every smartphone, laptop, and supercomputer today. The paper reveals mind wrestling with the very essence of procedure and algorithm, formalizing concepts like memory, processing, and conditional logic that would take another century to be fully realized in electronic form. While the physical engine remained a poignant and unrealized dream, a monument to a vision that outpaced its era's technology, the intellectual engine described in On the Mathematical Powers of the Calculating Engine ran perfectly. It ran in the mind of Babbage, it ran in the clarifying prose of Lovelace, and it continues to run in the logical heart of the digital civilization it so remarkably foretold. The manuscript stands as a powerful reminder that the most profound technological revolutions begin as revolutions in thought as acts of pure conceptual imagination.
We really appreciate you tuning into this AI-powered presentation. Our goal is to push the boundaries of AI in content creation, and your input is invaluable. If there's a particular subject you'd like to see us tackle next, or if you have suggestions on how we could fine-tune our AI's creative prompts, please don't hesitate to leave your ideas in the comments section. We're excited to bring you more unique content very soon.